Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com, coming to you on Wednesday, July 23rd. LA Galaxy getting ready for a Friday night. That's right, Friday night game against the Houston Dynamo. What's going on right now as we're recording? Let's see, the MLS All-Stars are beating the Liga MX All-Stars 2-0 right now in about the 57th minute. If you were watching that, God bless you, every single one of you. We're glad that you support Major League Soccer because one big shiny star, Leonel Messi, doesn't seem to be so interested in that. We're going to talk about the Galaxy's game on Friday, what we learned from training today, and to help us do all that, we're glad to have her back. It's Miss Sophie, the Cannon Nicolaou. Soph, how's it going?
It's going okay. How are you, Josh? I mean, that's a lie, really. It's not going okay at all.
It's all going sideways. I have a cold. You know, this is like, it's one of those crazy things. You know,
I'm recovering from a cold, and my camera on the computer wasn't working, so I'm doing this from my mobile phone, and that comes with a whole host of other issues. Other than that, life is grand.
I was saying, you don't have to worry about this. It's not BBC. It's not TalkSport. You know, this is Corner of the Galaxy, and we're used to, you know, the camera's working, which is like a thing that's a positive thing right now. Because if we had to put up a picture of Kevin Baxter again, because it's the only one I have just lying around, we'd all be in worse shape. So we will survive. How All-Star weekend, or week, I should say. It was funny talking to Greg Vanney today. He was somebody asked him, I believe it was Alex, about the All-Star game, and he was sort of like, if you could change anything about the All-Star game, would you tweak it? Like, what would you do? And he was like, I wouldn't put it on a short week. There are guys. I don't know if everybody notices this. There are players in this game, Sophie, playing on a Wednesday night. They're playing in Austin right now. There are players in this game who will play games on Friday. On Friday, the powers that be at Major League Soccer decided not to put all the games on Saturday, to put some of them on Friday, and they started it with this week, and there's guys who will play on Wednesday, which, by the way, they were like, well, they're only going to get 30 minutes. 30 minutes! Wednesday to Friday. What are we doing? I'll channel my best Taylor Twelve. What are we doing?
They don't care.
No.
Player welfare is irrelevant these days. What they care about is monetizing the game. You and I spoke a few weeks ago before the Club World Cup was going to start. And if ever there was a money grab, you know, that competition is definitely it. And it's sad. And, you know, Messi gets a pass. You know, and look, I respect Messi, what he's done for the game, what he's achieved. Certain players earn the right to do certain things. But, you know, do they? Should they? I mean, at the end of the day, when you go and you cross the white line and you're playing with another group of men, there are players who are treated differently. Yeah. You know, when you're a star player by your club, by everything. But I believe one famous Swede got a 2-match ban. Oh,
at least one. He had to miss one for not wanting to play on the turf. Zlatan Ibrahimovic didn't want to play at the All-Star game that was in Atlanta on turf, and was like, I'm not going to go play on turf. And so he missed the next game, that I understand. Yeah. If I remember correctly. So he missed the game. Yeah. So I imagine Messi's not going to miss a game. You know, there's not going to be any punishment for them.
I don't want to be that type of person that says, Inter Miami are judged differently, ref differently, able to do things differently, and sound very bitter. But the truth is the concessions that have been made for this team. And also, Messi's the one getting it in the neck. But what about Jordi Alba? He didn't show up either. And the fact that they let the league know, the league announced it, and Don Garber was asked about this in his press conference today, when you knew earlier in the week that he wasn't coming, why did you only let the public, the media know today?
Yeah.
And everyone knew that it wasn't going to happen. Everyone kind of guessed that it wasn't happening. And it's the same thing when he goes and plays away. People spend a tremendous amount of money to watch this guy play football. Now, Inter Miami need to take care of their player and the player health. They're not obligated to kind of, trash their load management because fans want to see Messi play. But the thing is people, that could be their one and only opportunity to see him play, right? So I asked Don Garber in the press conference today, and he was asked the question about Messi 3 different ways. And I can't remember who. I think it was someone from The Athletic I asked, and there was a guy after me who asked the question about why didn't you tell us sooner? And Don Garber actually said we should have done better in that area. So my question was, there've been a lot of great players that have come played in the league, but really the player that seems to have understood the league the most and got it from, is David Beckham.
See, I think that's so pertinent to our experience, right? Because we covered a guy, and I have some points on this afterwards when you finish, but we covered this. I covered David Beckham. I covered Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We've covered two of the 3 largest who have ever played in Major League Soccer. You can talk about Thierry Henry is in there as well, right? The whole deal. You can go into that, but nobody has been bigger than Zlatan Ibrahimovic, David Beckham, or Leonel Messi. And I don't know that there's much argument to that. And the comparisons between even Zlatan and Beckham and Messi are crazy in terms of what Messi is asked to do and not asked to do.
Right. So I said, considering that David has really just got it and understood the league, it makes it a little bit more surprising that Messi doesn't make the All-Star game. And then I kind of twisted it and said, do you think, based on this week, David's pedigree, that he truly is the most impactful and important player that has ever played in Major League Soccer? And he started off by saying, "Oh, that's a good question," and then proceeded to say and rave about David, and then he proceeded to also talk about how important Messi is. He said that without David, there wouldn't be this type of reception and attention for MLS, but also the impact that Messi has had today and what he brings to the game is great.
True.
I think it's true, and I do, but internationally,
right,
I think David has had a bigger impact. I think bums on seats, Messi has had a much, much bigger impact. To me, It seems like the PR, and maybe because you're right, maybe because we were living it and breathing it, it seems to me like the PR from an international point of view always seemed bigger with David and Zlatan. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it's because we don't sit there and we don't have the perspective of what's going on with Messi. I imagine that their press boxes are full and that people want to come cover Messi and all that stuff. I will say this. And by the way, Liga MX just scored, so it's 2-1 now in case you're really betting or paying attention to the All-Star game. I will say this, and this is with all seriousness. We have covered some bigger names, and I can go over them in terms of what they were able to do, not only for the league, for the team, but also, how they showed up to the press. Lionel Messi doesn't show up to the press. Let's be very clear about that. Nobody makes him, right? This was the Carlos Vela sort of things where all of a sudden he doesn't want to talk to the press. Giovanni Dos Santos started to do that with us whenever we were around. Giovanni Dos Santos doesn't want to talk to the press. Jonathan Dos Santos didn't want to talk to the press. There was this little bit of like this rift going on where all of a sudden it was like, well, the press requests are denied. Lionel Messi doesn't do press, right? He doesn't talk after games. David Beckham talked after every single game. Every single game David Beckham talked. Zlatan Ibrahimovic talked almost every single game. When we requested him, he was usually there and ready to talk to us. And he's bigger than life anyway. He always wanted to talk, so it's not surprising. But having said that, he wanted to talk. You can't tell me that David Beckham in the press constantly talking about Major League Soccer, constantly talking about the LA Galaxy didn't precipitate that growth internationally, right? Because you have people there covering David Beckham. They want to get the quotes from David Beckham. They want to put them in stories. I mean, we used to have visiting people come over from, wherever, and they would be like, I'm here to cover David Beckham. It's like, okay, cool. That's how it is. And that story would go out into the Philippines, or it would go out into Malaysia, or go back to England, or however it goes. It would go and it would travel. Maybe it was a different time for press. Maybe that was more of the golden age of that stuff. But David Beckham showed up for every single question, that even this really, really stupid bad questions, he showed up for him and he answered. Zlatan Ibrahimovic did that. Giovanni Dos Santos, we called out whenever he was not doing it, right? Which was, he's not doing press, and we know it, and it puts a bad mark on things. The fact that Leonel Messi can seems to, if he wanted to skip the All-Star game, and this is my argument, Zlatan Ibrahimovic talked whenever he would talk. He even talked about how stupid the All-Star game was, or how bad the turf was, right? The whole deal. But he talked about it. You knew he wasn't coming. Like, everybody was sort of like, he's not going, and that's everybody understands that. But he would show up and he would answer questions. If Leo Messi was out there answering all the questions, doing all the stuff, and trying to promote Major League Soccer, him showing up obviously is a promotion all in itself, and I agree with that, right? I'm not going to diss it. I don't want to say, but if he was there actually promoting the league, acting like he really cared about the league and cared about the All-Star game, what if he just went to the All-Star game and he was just there and he wanted to talk about it and he wanted to do and he's like, I'm not going to play because I'm really tired? I would respect that. That I could respect, but this 100%. whole just ghosting, and he's been ghosting the media since he came, and apparently Major League Soccer is perfectly fine with it because they're not going to do anything about it.
So brilliant points, Josh. And the other thing too is he's done all of the big marketing stuff, right? The stuff that matters with the Apple deal, which he gets a slice of. He has done kind of like maybe one big network. I remember at the beginning of this season, I was watching a game and he did one interview. I don't think he's done one since. And he was, of course, did it in Spanish, and the person's translating and he's already walked off the pitch. Yeah. He hasn't even stayed to the end of that. Right. Here's a take, and it might be very unpopular with some people, but I don't care.
Nobody's watching. It's a Wednesday night anyway.
Good, because I'm looking at my worst tonight, so I'm not feeling too good. And also, they took away my computer.
Yes, I know.
Zlatan, one of the most charismatic footballers ever, the soundbite king. He delivered, like you said. David Beckham, charismatic. Ronaldo, charismatic. I think Messi's the most vanilla GOAT ever.
Yeah, I
think
I agree.
He's
100%.
got no charisma. Zero charisma. And he's also been very sheltered from a young age at Barcelona and protected. I mean, he can't walk anywhere without Luis Suarez. He wasn't able to walk anywhere. And look, I get it. He needs to be protected because there are lunatics out there, right? Yep. But when it comes to media and even his charisma, he's probably a lovely guy. His friends love him. His family love him. I get it. I'm not ragging on that. But from a charismatic athlete perspective, he is not that.
Yeah. It's almost unfair in some ways. Like, I almost feel like it's unfair to judge him in the way that we are. But I think we've lived through it. We have had the big names. We've seen what they're capable of. We saw the damage that like Giovanni Dos Santos did when he didn't want to talk to the press, because he wasn't playing well. You have a Leonel Messi who has no excuse not to talk to the press. What? So he speaks Spanish. Guess what? There's plenty of people who speak Spanish. He can go through it and they can translate and they can do all the things they want. And he should talk after every game and he should promote Major League Soccer. Whenever he thinks things need to be changed, he should say things need to change. I would like to see this better. I would like to see that better. Every once in a while we see him come out and complain about the referees, and that's about it, right? And by the way, we're all in agreement sometimes about the referees, right? So we get there.
This is why the best thing that happened to the league, Josh, was that they didn't win last year.
And what's going to happen this year, right? What if they do win this year, right? So By the way, I don't think they're a great team again. I think that they have faults, but they can certainly, on any given day, they can be the best team in Major League Soccer. So, let's not complete it. The All-Star game is weird. The All-Star game, having it in a short week, is insane. I've already, and I said it on Monday night, and it was just the day before yesterday, which is hard to believe, but I said it on Monday night that I don't know who put this transfer window, where they put this transfer window, and why. The Galaxy have 10 games left. The transfer window just opened. What again, Taylor Tolman? I'm sorry, TT. What are we doing? I asked Greg Vanny about the transfer window today. I go, doesn't it seem like it's not where it's supposed to be? Doesn't it seem weird? And he was like, yeah. He goes, usually I'd like guys to come in early in July, get settled. He goes, and then you're supposed to have almost a half of a year's worth of games coming in. As it is right now, the Galaxy have less than a third left, because there's 10 games left. That's it, 10 games. 10 games left in the season. The transfer window finally opened. There's going to be some Leagues Cup games that are going to be thrown in here rapid fire, and then the window closes on August 21st, and that's it. So what are we doing there? Today, there was big sort of fervor. There was rumors going around that perhaps MLS was finally going to vote to change the schedule as well.
He was asked about that a lot today.
And I think in general, he said that's not going to happen before the World Cup. It would happen in 2027. Okay, cool. Stop talking about it then. I'm tired of it. Stop talking about it. Either do it or don't do it. These guys, they're screwing this up so badly for this league. I'm usually a big fan of Major League Soccer. I actually like the sort of single entity and the fact that their salary caps up to a certain level. I think the salary cap should be raised, but I understand sort of putting this dome on everything and sort of being like, we're going to be smarter about this. And it has worked. You can't argue. It's the longest surviving, Major League Soccer, the professional soccer league ever in the United States, right? The North American Soccer League went by the wayside because they got too crazy on the spending, and there were a couple teams doing it, and everybody else went bankrupt trying to chase them. That's not how it's happened. So we've seen that there are advantages doing it the way that. Do I like that it's a closed system? I actually do. I think it implies more investment right now, right? And you're getting guys in, because if you told them that they could be relegated the next time, it's hard for those guys to drop the $750 million it's going to cost in order to buy an expansion team, right? So I actually like a lot of these things. Do I wish the rules were simpler? Yes, I do. But now we're getting into you have Messi, you have the World Cup. What did you do to the league before that happened to make it a better league? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
You did nothing. And so now you want to change the schedule. Cool. Should have changed the schedule 2 years ago then, right? It should already be in set. It should already be in place for the World Cup whenever it comes. You want to raise the salary cap? Should have already done it last year when you had the chance to do it. So that way it would be in effect by the time that the World Cup happens in 2026. Again, these guys are being ruled by owners who are the cheaper owners, the scared owners. And there's a bunch of guys here who want to push it, right? I mean, even with the schedule, there was rumors going around that perhaps there would be owners who sued if they changed the schedule. What are we doing? Why do we think that Major League Soccer, Sophie, do we think that Major League Soccer can go up against all those other sports that they now want to place themselves against too, because they have soccer-specific stadiums now and everything, and to line it up with the transfer windows in Europe? Do you think that's the better sort of, thing?
So he talked about parity today. He talked about the strength of the league because he was asked this question. He talked about he put up some of the stadiums against the Premier League, how they're newer. He also talked about stability and how, monetarily the league is safe and it's sound and all of these things. He defended all of that. He was also asked about, breaking out the conferences into divisions, because there's been word that maybe they're thinking about doing something like that too. So it was one big PR,
Yeah, fluff
it always
piece.
is.
Yeah, I know it is.
It always is. I know Kevin talks about it similarly as well, in the sense that, what we really want to know, what are the real answers? And generally at the State of the Union around All-Star Game, you don't get any of those answers. And the media, I thought, did a good job of trying to ask the right questions.
Right.
But yeah, in regards to the schedule, I've got friends who actually watch MLS during the off season of Europe because they miss football and they can engage with football.
Yep.
And of course we had the Club World Cup this summer.
Right.
So that added a little extra dimension. But with Messi playing and Jordi Alba and Busquets, and you've got these names and stuff, they're paying attention to the league. I think it gives MLS a bit of an edge. I'm not sure I would be trying to compete with Europe on this front. I believe that will have a detrimental effect on Major League Soccer. I don't know if you agree with that.
It could. You could. I don't know. I mean,
it's a regional sport. I get it, Josh. Really, in essence, isn't it?
And certainly Major League Soccer is regional, right? Whenever you get into some of the other places, maybe it takes over more of countries, and it's more of a worldwide or a nationwide thing. But in Major League Soccer, it's very siloed. It's very regional. People from Los Angeles watch the LA Galaxy. People from San Diego watch San Diego. San Diego people don't watch Nashville play Charlotte. It's that type of thing. For the most part, you're watching your games and possibly every once in a while your conference, the guys who are in your conference. That's about it. This isn't the NFL where everybody tunes in for every game to find out what's going on, because I don't think soccer has reached that level yet. It's hyper local. That's good. You can certainly survive off that, but it's harder whenever you look at like the TV deals and stuff like that. What happens? How does Apple TV do it? I heard Don Garber said that they are averaging about 120,000 per match. Now we don't know if that's the average across the total aggregate across the whole thing. We don't know what that means, but 120,000 is certainly a pretty interesting and good number if that was the case. If there were 120,000 people watching the LA Galaxy play, that would be so much higher than what it was whenever it was just regional. I can't even begin to tell you. If the numbers before, I'm trying to remember what they were, but they were so low at one point, I laughed. I was like, really? Whenever they was on Spectrum and that type of thing, it would be like people watching. There were more people in the stadium. Whenever there was, 25,000 people in the stadium, there would be more people in the stadium than were watching the game. So if that has gone up, then that's huge. And maybe that's the Leo Messi effect. Again, it's 120. It's an average. Maybe there's 17 million people who are watching Lionel Messi, and then nobody's watching any of the other games. You could spread it out across all that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if there was an MLS. Imagine if there was an Apple deal when David Beckham was playing, and Thierry Henry and David Villa and Andrea Pirlo. At that time, you had 5 or 6 of them, and that would have been a great move to get more fans to watch kind of outside of their zone, if you like. You've got the opportunity to do that with Apple. I know some people have issue with Apple, but let's be honest. It kind of legitimized that deal, right? Made MLS look good. You're playing with one of the biggest companies on the planet, and I think that helped elevate and add more pedigree, the content, the little snippets, the shows, everything. I think that's been a good thing for the league, and the more people watch, the better.
Yeah, I think the content has been lacking. I would like to see more stuff that's put on there, but it's better than what it was, right? And it's all in one place. They kind of
went guns blazing. They went guns blazing, didn't they? Telling us this and this, and then the documentary came out. First, what was it called? First Edge or no? What was the one?
First Kick? First
Kick?
Something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Somebody will correct me. I watched it. I thought it was really interesting. I will wait for this one for this year as well.
They could be doing more though. They promised a lot, and I don't think they're delivering as much as they could. As
any new television contract, they always have stuff that sort of goes out and it starts, and then they realize that they can't afford that, and they start pulling back. I mean, Major League Soccer basically said, "We're not making enough money, so we're going to have some people call the games from Florida." And they've done that. They've called them remotely. So, yeah, I mean, that's a horrible thing to have happen, right? We've seen a lot less of that, by the way. It happened for a little while, and I think everybody sort of said that's a really bad idea. And we had Christian Miles and Lori Lindsay on the last call. I went down to see both of them, and they were there in the box calling the game from the stadium. So, you can do these things. I just think that when you're looking at it, and by the way, Garber said that I think that 120 that the subscribership went up by like 50% or something like that this year, or a 50% increase. And they tried to do a lot more, give it away a lot for free, right? Like make it like T-Mobile, it was given away for free again, and like that type of thing. So they tried to make it more accessible, and I think that they've done that a little bit.
They've just done a 50% off offer. Have you seen that?
What was that?
The subscriptions.
Oh, is it 50% off? Yeah.
I think they launched it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean,
It's 50% off for the rest of the season.
because half the season's over, it makes sense. By the way, that's just like just paying by game. It makes sense, right? So people. Oh, I should have waited. No, you would have missed the first half of the season. Like you're fine. This is accurate. You know, it should be prorated when you sign up for these things, right? Like how many games are left? That's this is what it is per game. You know. We're waiting. Perhaps MLS just scored 3-1. Diego Luna apparently
For
with the goal.
someone not interested in the All-Star game, you seem very interested.
I am
in the
here talking
All-Star
soccer
game.
on a Wednesday night. I have a cold, and I decided that I'll turn the game on to see if anything happens of any consequence. I will say in the first 30 minutes, I thought 3 or 4 players got injured because they got knocked down and were already holding things that they probably shouldn't be holding. So I was like, oh, man. Remember, the LA Galaxy have 0 players in the All-Star game. The first successful deployment of the corner of the galaxy theory, which is don't go to the All-Star game because it can only be bad, not good. So
is that the first time in how many years that LA have missed a player at the All-Star game?
We think it's the first. Yes, it is the first time in
how
league
many?
history, we believe, in league history that the LA Galaxy didn't have a player on the All-Star team. Yep.
Wow.
Marco Royce would have started. If Marco Royce was healthy earlier, he would have made the All-Star team.
He would have. Yeah, he would have. Definitely.
I'm obviously glad he's not.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody needs to rest. And this is what we get to. These guys are playing on Wednesday. There's a game on Friday. How many games are on Friday? Not just a handful. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 games on Friday night, and they're playing an All-Star game on Wednesday night.
It just doesn't make sense.
Who's making these decisions? And it's just so poor. And again, I'm a big fan. I just stated that I'm one of the few people who like salary caps. I'm one of the few people who sort of likes how they've sort of kept a lid on everything as they try to grow sustainably. You know, Garber at least didn't come out there and say, oh, well, everybody's losing money again. You know, that was the big thing. Anytime there's a negotiation deal, we don't make any money. We're all losing money. No, we're stable. We have a stable league. So that's certainly something there. As we look at the LA Galaxy, though, El Trafico, 3-3. You were on the text thread with me and Hammer. We were going back and forth. There were. I think there was a wave of emotions throughout the entire game. Most of that text thread cannot be shared over the airwaves. But there was a point at like 2-1, 3-1 where I was, and I think I said this on Monday, where I was. They're not playing well. They're not playing well. They're gonna make it close. That's what I said. They're gonna make it close, and then we're all gonna be like, oh man, the inclination is gonna be, oh man, they almost had it. The whole deal. The fact they came back and tied that game at 3-3 shows a side of this LA Galaxy team in 2025 that I didn't know existed, and that's really sad. There are 10 games left, and this version of the LA Galaxy just showed up to the point where you're like, oh, maybe they can fight back for some stuff, at least in an El Trafico where you can throw emotions in and everything gets ratcheted up. What did you take from the game?
Personally, I thought at that point your 4-1 was a shoo-in. I was like, that guy, I can't believe he's going to get that.
If Tillman scores that goal, it would have been 3-1, and then they could have possibly made it 4-1. I thought that was the right scoreline. I am shocked that LAFC choked that away. Shocked. That is a choke job that you rarely see from a team that is supposed to be a title contender.
You know what though? LAFC fans were not shocked. They've taken issue with Cherundolo a little bit this season. They have not enjoyed his subs as much, and he thought the game was in the bag at 3-1, and he made a bunch of changes. And there were a couple of reasons why, LA Galaxy were able to come back into the game. One was they showed the most tenacity they have had all season, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. The red card had an effect because I think it left the gap for LA Galaxy to exploit, of course, but also that many changes. It all happened too quickly, and they disengaged. They thought they won that game. And LA Galaxy weren't done. And it's really a shame because when you see that team show up for that match in that way and still make mistakes, when you look at the goals conceded, and I agree with what Greg said in the presser, that Buanga goal was a fluke. They didn't mean that pass. He just got to run on the end of it, and he was away. But it was just like, why haven't they played more like this season? What has been the problem? What's been the missing link? Mistakes, yes. attitude, application, a hangover from winning the league. I know that some players find it difficult to adapt once they win, but I loved that match so much. As I said, don't give me any other rivalry. Do not give me any other derby. That delivers over as bad as, and LAFC haven't been that great this season.
Right.
As bad as LA Galaxy, they turn up again. That is the showpiece match in the league, and I loved it. And that header from Yoshida, the cross, the second goal was absolutely sublime. The cross was superb. The header, the timing, it was absolutely brilliant. Find me a more satisfying goal. I know that Hammer was talking about the free kicks from Royce and Fagundes when we were having our chat.
Right.
But that is the most satisfying goal that LA Galaxy have scored all season. And I just think, what a shame. Where has this fight been against teams earlier in the season, mid-season? What happened?
Yeah.
Makes the post-mortem for me even more like fascinating after this match.
Or absurd, right? Like, because it almost makes you more angry. If you're a Galaxy fan, it makes you almost more angry. Oh, so you can play like that. Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, thanks for showing up this year, right? I do have some updates from that game, by the way. There's a couple. I tweeted it out on Monday. Literally, when I got done with the podcast, I got a text message from the one and only Mr. Kevin Acevedo over at the LA Galaxy, and he said there is a scoring change in that game 2 days later. Let's be very clear. Saturday, and then on Monday night at about 10:30-ish, 10:40-ish, Mr. Acevedo just texted me and said there's been a scoring change. Major League Soccer has changed the scoring. So the 79th minute goal, which is the second goal the LA Galaxy scored, which you just said is sublime, does not indeed go to Gabriel Peck. That goal goes to Mateus Nascimento, because if you can believe it, and I've seen the evidence, that ball kicks off the bottom of his foot whenever he goes to jump over it, and it ends up going in the back. I don't know if it threw Lloris off. I don't know if they have an angle where you can see it like change in terms of what it is, but you can see the ball go, hit his foot, and change trajectory. So Nascimento gets credit for that goal.
Peck can't catch a break this season.
I know, right? Peck is like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like, I'm sure. I don't know. That's what he said, but it is hysterical that's a 2025 thing for the LA Galaxy, right? Gabriel Peck puts a banger in, and Nascimento is like, he's going to have to apologize to Peck because that gets changed. Officially, that is a change.
It's just typical, absolutely typical of the season.
It's so funny. The other update from that is Kevin and I, Kevin Baxter, I have to be specific. Kevin Baxter and I were talking on Monday night, obviously on the podcast, and we were talking about what got Diego Fagundes so fired up, right? So today, you'll like this story. As I was, I sometimes whenever I get lost at work and I pay no attention to what time it is, and so I will get a phone call being like, "Are you going to hop on the call?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll hop on the call, absolutely." So I jump on the call, and waiting for me as soon as it pops up is Mr. Diego Fagundes, and he just wanted some clarifications on what got him so fired up, and I saw some of this, so I thought it was good. This was on the Martinez tackle that Cuevas made. Cuevas tackles Martinez. Martinez gets all sorts of angry about it. A melee ensues. Diego Fagundes gets choked from behind. There's a red card to Segura, and this is how that goes down the rabbit hole. But what Diego saw was, one is that whenever Martinez, I thought the Cuevas tackle was okay. It wasn't like a horrible tackle. Martinez, though, wrapped him up. He had his legs around Cuevas's legs. So everybody's like, oh, Cuevas is standing over him. Well, yeah, because the guy had his legs wrapped around him. He wasn't going to, he's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, me, the whole deal. When Mauricio goes to step out of that, there's a kick out by Martinez, right? So the whole deal, Diego didn't like that very much. And he wanted to make sure that we knew that that's what that was. So that was what started all of that.
I loved it. I love it. I love it. More of it. That was great. I mean, of course, grabbing someone by the neck is not great.
No.
At any given moment.
No.
But the passion,
unless it's
and
consensual.
The
unless it's consensual, let's keep it PG-13. Yes.
I thought this was a family show. I have to put stuff in the swear jar sometimes.
Yes, you do. I didn't swear. I'm good at this. But no, just the whole sequence that sort of went there. And, it's always interesting hearing from players after that. Everybody was sort of like, we were trying to keep our heads because we knew that if we exploded, that we were going to definitely lose that game. Apparently for LAFC, they did not have the same thing, right? So they did lose their head. Segura lost his head. He got a red card, and it's absolutely a red card every day of the week.
Oh, gosh.
Galaxy also got fined for mass confrontation. Their third. LAFC got warned. It was their first mass confrontation of the year. So
did Garces get fined for inciting the crowd?
yes, Garces did. I'm trying
Did he?
Yeah, he got fined.
I didn't read the memo this week.
I'm trying to remember. There was somebody else from
memo.
LAFC. It may have been Martinez who was also like inciting the melee. So that was there. So anyway, those were the pickups from that game. We were talking to Greg Vanney today and asking him sort of about the momentum, though. Like, what is this? It's tough for these guys. And if we talked to Mauricio Cuevas today as well. For these guys, they have to take this one game at a time. And I usually hate the one game at a time answers. We got to take it one game at a time. But there's nothing else to play for. Like, it's like you can't say
there is.
Yeah, there is. What are they playing for? To not be the worst LA Galaxy team ever?
That for sure. You've got to show some pride.
Yeah.
Lock it in and try and win every single game. Use that as the nucleus to go forward. Greg is certainly going to be preaching that for sure. You cannot go down with this roster, and coming off having a championship season, you cannot go down as the worst Galaxy team in league history. That is a no-no. I would be absolutely fuming as a season ticket holder, a fan. You cannot have that. The second thing is you go for Leagues Cup now. You try and win Leagues Cup.
It's a difficult tournament. I just don't want people to get like. It's a weird format. Yes, the Galaxy will get 3 games at home in rapid succession. They're very quick, right? And that will sort of determine. And again, I believe, if I remember the format correctly, it is the LA Galaxy will be playing against quote-unquote other MLS teams while they're playing Liga MX teams, right? So you have to take all the points. Greg Vanney talked about it today. You have to take all the points from every game that you possibly can, because you're not playing against the guys who you're actually on the field with. You're playing against the other teams, because they're basically going to filter that into a bracket, and then you're going to get to play that. So there's equal number of Liga MX teams, equal number of MLS teams, and then they're going to go at it for the tournament side. So from my understanding, 3 games and then 4 games. If you win 4 after that, it is, I believe, a championship. That you would win a championship if you won the 4th game. So the fact is the Galaxy don't have a great schedule in terms of who they're playing, but they are at home, and maybe that helps them a little bit. We can actually look at the schedule. The LA Galaxy start off against Tijuana and the Xolos, and then it's Cruz Azul, and then it's Santos Laguna, right? So all those rapid fire, rapid succession. Greg Vanney talking about how in that tournament and in the games coming up, there's going to have to be rotation, and guys who haven't played a lot will get some playing time, right? I think one of the people that you're going to see getting more playing time, because he was certainly a topic of conversation today, is Mauricio Cuevas, right? And what he can do. Greg says he loves him going forward, Soph, but he wants to see him get better at the defending part of that if he's going to get starting minutes, right? So I know lots of people are sort of clamoring for him to get more minutes, and until he gets the defensive side of things, I think it's still going to be Yamane. But that being said, Mauricio Cuevas is an up-and-comer. His crossing is the best on the team. And I asked Greg if they were missing. I don't know. I thought this was a good question. It's one I've been meaning to ask, and it sort of sat in my lap for this one, which was, it's Mauricio Cuevas brings this crossing, so brings this accurate crossing. He brings in, good service. And is crossing something the LA Galaxy have been missing this year? And Greg said, in a long-winded answer, Greg Vanney, always thorough with his explanations, the answer was yes, but he also wants to make sure that they're crossing for the right reasons and at the right time, because he believes there are such things as bad crosses. If you just send stuff in and you sort of lead yourself to turnovers, you don't want to do that. But we haven't seen crossing from Gabriel Peck. We haven't seen crossing from Joseph Paintsel. And everybody's like, well, who are they going to cross to? Nascimento. Feed him like you fed Jovalic. See if he can get in there and do stuff. Catch the second runners like they did on the ball in the second goal, right? Which is, to sort of play that through, to come over, have Royce cut it back and find it in one of the assist zones. It's not a great cross, but it is certainly service in terms of that. But he did agree at least that they probably need some more crossing this year, but in the right situations.
Well, they bought a number 9 that hasn't really taken off. If you've got Yoshida's better in the air than Ramirez.
It is at his I think his expected goals, Yoshida's expected goals were in like the top 6 on, and he had never the ball just wouldn't go in, right? We were talking about that after the LAFC game. I asked him that question. It's like we've seen it go off the post, we've seen it go off the crossbar, we've seen it go just over the post, just wide of the post, just over the crossbar. One finally went in, and he was like, yeah, he was excited about that. But yeah, we'll sort of see how that goes. Injury updates for the LA Galaxy. In reading the tea leaves, because I asked Greg Vanney about Maya Yoshida, who's played a bunch of minutes and is a little bit older, and Gabriel Peck, who's played a ton of minutes this year. I asked him about both of them, and both of them have had short weeks this week, right? So they have not been 100%. They're not training on all the sessions. If you're reading the tea leaves on it, I would suggest that perhaps Maya Yoshida will not make the game in Houston. So that would probably leave Zonka in there as a starter next with Amiro Garces than Yoshida. I think there's a bunch of games coming up, and with the short week that's sort of been happening with his age, with all the minutes he's been putting in, I think you're going to see a more cautious Greg Vanney, knowing that when we look at the schedule, there are a ton of games coming up, and they're going to need him for that too. So it would be my suggestion that if you see no Maya Yoshida on the team sheet come Friday, he's dealing with a knock. I think Gabriel Peck is dealing with a knock. However, the younger age and sort of where he's at, it seems like he'll have a better chance. But if he's not on the starters, if he's on the bench, then you'll know he's carrying a knock, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's that time of year. It's Houston. It can be hot during the day. It's supposed to be some 90-something degrees during the evening, perhaps closer to 78, 80 degrees, which would be huge. I asked Greg Vanney about the weather today, and I said, maybe you guys are going to get away with one this time. And he goes, you never know with Houston. He goes, it could be thunderstorms and raining, and we're delayed for 2 hours. He goes, and then it'll be 99% humidity whenever you do play. And he goes, even at 80 degrees, that's miserable. The whole deal. He goes, so we'll just have to see. But you don't want to be in Houston in July, and that's where the LA Galaxy find themselves on Friday night. So those were sort of the big things from training. He did talk about going game by game, and I understand that. But again, there's 10 games left in the season. The playoffs are sort of out of it. Campeones Cup is coming up. That's something he's like. He joked around with that today and said, I wish there was a CONCACAF Champions League spot on the line for the winner of that. He goes, but we'll take the trophy if we can win that as well. I laughed because other people were asking me, well, what do you get if you win it? I go, you get a trophy. I go, it's a one-off game. Why are you going to get a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot for that? Then that's the sort of the same thing with Greg was like, I wish there was a CCC spot on the line for it. No, there's not. It's one game. It's just for bragging rights more than anything. So that was sort of the take from training. The guys are hyped. You can see it just in, my interaction with Diego Fagundes, who's always great and has been on the show multiple times. It sort of shows where they're at. They're jazzed. They're excited about sort of what they did. What does that turn into? I don't know, because the Galaxy have yet to win a game on the road this year. Saying that they're going to do that in the summertime in Houston, that's a pretty tough ask for that. I think Greg said something to whenever I said about playing in the weather, and it's like you have to sort of be efficient with what you're trying to do. Like you can't just be running back and forth and trying to chase the game down, and they're going to be more used to the conditions that they're playing in, and so you sort of get in this. And so for all the people who hate it whenever the LA Galaxy stand around and pass the ball back and forth, expect that. I really truly believe that. I think they're going to try to pick their moments, and they're going to have to absorb some of that. And you
got to play to the conditions, Josh. I mean, it's really tough out there. It's not easy. We think that they're machines sometimes, but you've got to get a win on the road. Yeah. You can't go the whole season without winning away.
No,
you can't.
Absolutely not. By the way, full time for the MLS All-Stars, 3-1 over Liga MX. So there you go. That now is over. And those guys who played in that game will now have to go to Friday and play in some of those games. So that's what we got. Let's get to the Houston game, because I want to wrap this up a little bit early. It's hot in this room right now. But we have Houston versus the LA Galaxy coming up at 5:30 p.m. That's 5:40 p.m. is your kickoff on Friday. So you're going to have to get home pretty quick in order to turn those on if you get off at 5 o'clock like I do. But you can get that on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. Sophie, Houston coming off of a 1-1 draw with Philadelphia. Philadelphia actually scored first in this game. It was Houston who came back with a penalty kick in the 45th plus 10th minute, so 55 minutes in the first half to score there, and that was the end of that game. That was in Houston as well. So seeing it, how good Philadelphia is and probably how much the conditions probably took something out of it, that's something you can sort of expect from perhaps this game as well. You could see Jonathan
Josh,
Bond again.
I hope my battery doesn't die, because it was a last minute fix to come on my phone. So if for any reason I go blank, it's not because I've been abducted by Leonel Messi's PR team.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, just to let you know. But yeah, Jonathan Bondy's back.
Bondy's back. He'll be back in goal. It still seems like, I think Dan Steres was injured at some point. And so you won't see him back there. Yes, I love me some Dan Steres, always have. So we haven't seen him play in a whole bunch of games. I don't know what his status will be for this game, but certainly we can check that as it goes. So this is really your lineup. I'll be honest, we're going to talk about it again. There's a talent gap. Right? The talent gap between Houston and the talent gap between the LA Galaxy. What has that meant this year? Not very much.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that we can hang on it, but certainly Jack McGlynn at their 7.4 rating is their best player, right? Sort of in that midfield. You have to watch him. You have to take care of him. Ponce's up there. Kowalczyk is in there up at their top. Escobar sort of on that left back side is another one of those guys who can certainly get forward and score goals at 7.1 average rating, and then Jonathan Bond at the 6.6 right now. So that's where we sit with the Houston Dynamo. Nothing too exciting, nothing unexpected, but it's just going to be an ugly summertime game, Soph, and I don't think we can say much more about it. I'll give everybody the odds here. Houston has a 51.2% chance of winning, which means that the LA Galaxy have just under a 50% chance of tying or winning that game. So we always like it whenever the LA Galaxy are sort of in that 50% range, whenever you add the draw and the win together on the road. But clearly Houston is favorited in this game. Houston actually can win games at home. Houston's not a horrible team. We can look at the Western Conference. They're in 11th, but really they're 2 points away from that 9th spot. So every point matters for them. Guaranteed they're licking their chops as the LA Galaxy come into town, especially with how bad the Galaxy have been down there. So funny. So,
Houston. I love the games back in the 2011, 2012. That was a really good Houston team, and they were always fun, those matches. And it feels like going into this one, LA Galaxy are playing for pride, and Houston are still fighting for a playoff spot to kind of, do bits again. They haven't really done a lot of bits in a long time, as we say back in England. So I can't see LA winning this match. I really can't. I just don't see it. I could see a draw, 1-1, tired draw, like drawn out, but I can't see LA Galaxy winning it.
The path to stealing the points to winning would be either scoring first and then somehow sitting and defending for, something the Galaxy really haven't been doing that much to keep that Houston off the board, or to keep this game 0-0 or 1-1 going into the 70th or 80th minute and finding your spot to sort of steal. That's going to be it. I don't see the LA Galaxy going out and just running up the score, although we saw that in Philadelphia. They still came back to lose that game in Philadelphia, but we saw it where they were able to jump out, have a lead, and then try to keep Philadelphia off the board for the rest of the time. That's sort of going to have to be the steal here. Teams usually, Sophie, whenever it's hot, sometimes try to expend energy up front, knowing that you're going to suffer at the end. DC United did the opposite whenever they came to LA, which was they sort of sat back at the first half and then pressed in the second half. That was a game the Galaxy ended up winning. But coming off
El Trafico as well.
There's an emotional letdown, right? And you have to fly to Houston. Nobody wants to fly to Houston, not in July. Nobody wants to do that. So we'll get to our predictions here in a second, but Aaron asked a question, $10 super chat. Forgot to ask, at the game versus Austin, they announced several times about not doing the offensive chant. I honestly didn't hear it in the stadium, just boos versus the goalie. Here we go. And then also he would like to say, P.S. You still have a fake accent. So that's Aaron's. Aaron's going to go there for that. I didn't hear it. I heard them doing the announcement. I didn't hear it. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Usually somebody hears it, and somebody within the organization hears it, and that triggers the warnings. And I would imagine that did happen somewhere, somehow. I didn't hear it, but again, that was a weird game. It felt like somebody correctly called it. It felt like I was at a baseball game in terms of the cheering and the atmosphere. It was very...
Come on, clean it up, people. Throwing bottles afterwards. What are we? Come on, what's going on?
That was LAFC who was throwing the bottles. This one, this was the Austin game. The Galaxy didn't throw any bottles. So I'm just saying in general.
Yes, in general. Clean it up.
It needs to be cleaned up. 100%.
Come on.
All right. Your predictions for Houston. I know you sort of gave it already, but what is the prediction guaranteed to be wrong for you tonight, Miss Sophie?
My crystal football says 1-1.
1-1. Galaxy get away with a point. Not horrible, by the way. We actually one of the formulas we had for the Galaxy making the playoff was win all their home games and draw all their away games, and they could make the playoffs. You know, unfortunately, they lost a home game to Austin, so now they're going to have to find away points, which is something, again, they haven't done this season. The LA Galaxy averaging just over 0.33 points per game on the road. It's actually, I think, at 0.38 right now, which means roughly every 3 games they're getting a point. So I don't know that that's something that the Galaxy should be hanging their heads on. I will say that this game is a 2-1 win for the Houston Dynamo. I do not think that the Galaxy get this. They just haven't showed me. And while I appreciate the effort that we saw in El Trafico, I do not believe that effort will be present in Houston in July on a Friday night. So
I agree.
That's it. Anything else you want to get to before we get out of here? Because I am ready to be done as much as you are ready to be done.
Listen, I hope you could hear me properly. Apologies for the sound quality. I may look like I'm talking into my mic, but I'm actually talking into my headphones. So we're giving away all the trade secrets. I think my battery made it to the very end. Josh, love you lots, and thanks for having me. And to everyone in chat, I haven't been able to see your comments tonight, but thanks for being here. Love you all, and be safe no matter where in the world you might be, and be kind.
There you go. All right, so tell people where they can find you then. Let's go.
At Highbury Squad. Give us a listen over there. Got some good stuff with some US players coming up, and also did a really good little question with Emily Fox on there for you US women's national team fans. That's it. That's me. I'm out.
Awesome. Hey, Soph, Gary had a $5 super chat asking you. Hold your answer because I will do my stuff. But the answer, your question is favorite Arsenal player and biggest Arsenal bust. Wait for it. If you're looking for me on any of the social media, it's at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those fun places. Sophie, go.
Dennis Bergkamp. And Arsenal's biggest ever bust?
Yeah.
Or what I think is Arsenal's biggest ever bust? I don't know. I'll have to go back. Maybe a player called Francis Jeffers, who came from Everton. At the time, it seemed like a lot of money, but yeah, there've been quite a few busts at Arsenal over the years.
All right, for Miss Sophie, the Cannon Nicolaou, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.